Reading from Sri Krishna Samhita by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Chapter 9. Achievement of the Lotus Feet of Lord Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Sri Vyasadeva has explained the eternal truth while describing the pastimes of Raj. This eternal truth is beyond the realm of material knowledge. This supreme truth shines in the living entity's pure existence. This pure existence is attainable by conditioned souls through pure absolute samadhi, which vanquishes all impediments. There are two types of samadhi, artificial and absolute. The devotees accept natural samadhi as absolute and fabricated samadhi as artificial, regardless of whatever explanations the Gyanis have. The soul is spiritual, therefore the qualities of self-knowledge and knowledge of other objects are naturally present in him. By the quality of self-knowledge, one can realize oneself. By the quality of knowing other objects, one can realize all other objects. Since such qualities are the constitutional nature of a living entity, where is the doubt that natural samadhi is absolute? A living entity does not require to take shelter of another instrument to understand the supreme object. Therefore, this samadhi is faultless. But when one takes shelter of Sankhya samadhi, which entails faulty or unnatural activities, it is known as artificial samadhi. The constitutional activities of the soul are called natural samadhi, for the mind has no jurisdiction in these activities. Natural samadhi is easy and free from misery. If one takes shelter of this samadhi, then the eternal truth is easily realized. The pastimes of Raj have been perceived and described through the process of natural samadhi in the form of self-realization. Although the names, forms, qualities, and activities that are used to describe Raj Leela appear almost mundane, that is only because the material world created by Maya is similar to its origin, Vaikuntha. Actually, the soul's natural samadhi is a function of the spiritual potency. Whatever is perceived through natural samadhi is the ideal example for the material world, not imitation. For this reason, Krishna's names, qualities, and forms have a similarity to material names, qualities, forms. Self-realization comes through self-illumination. Learned scholars call self-realization samadhi. This is very subtle. If there is a tinge of doubt, it is practically lost. Many truths, such as the living entity's faith in his own existence, the living entity's eternal existence, and the living entity's relationship with the absolute truth, are realized through natural samadhi. Do I exist or not? Will I exist after death? Do I have any relationship with the absolute truth? If one develops such argumentative doubts on the truth, then his natural samadhi becomes contaminated with prejudice and gradually forgotten. The truth can never be lost, it can only be forgotten. The soul's eternality in the existence of the absolute truth cannot be established by argument, because argument has no entrance into the realm beyond the material world. Self-realization is the only way to establish these truths. The devotees of Krishna always realize their eternal home, Vaikuntha, and their eternal occupation, service to Krishna, through natural samadhi or self-realization. When a spirit soul practices natural samadhi, he progressively realizes the following subjects. 1. His self. 2. The insignificance of the self. 3. The supreme shelter. 4. The relationship between the shelter and the sheltered. 5. The beauty of the qualities, activities, and form of the shelter. 6. The relationships amongst the sheltered. 7. The abode of the sheltered and the sheltered. 8. The absolute time factor. 9. The various moods of the sheltered. 10. The eternal pastimes between the shelter and the sheltered. 11. The energies of the shelter. 12. The advancement and degradation of the sheltered by the energies of the shelter. 13. The misidentification of the degraded sheltered. 14. The cultivation of devotional service for restoration of this degraded sheltered. 15. The degraded sheltered regaining a constitutional position through devotional service. These 15, along with other inconceivable truths, are realized. The more material knowledge is mixed with one's natural samadhi, the less one can realize the truth. The more one is able to advance on the path of natural samadhi by controlling argument, which is like the minister of material knowledge, the more one can open the storehouse and acquire indescribable spiritual truths. The storehouse of Vaikuntha is always full. Lord Sri Krishna Chandra, the lovable object of all, constantly invites the living entities through the open door of that storehouse. We have destroyed the doubts that hinder samadhi, and we are seeing within the inner circle of Vaikuntha the beautiful form of Sri Krishna, who is the topmost personality of Vrindavan. If our samadhi would have been polluted with material knowledge, and if the propensity for argument, after giving up mundane knowledge, would have intruded in the process of samadhi, then we would not have accepted the quality of variegatedness of the spiritual world, and we would have proceeded only up to impersonal Brahman. But if material knowledge and argument was to some extent subdued and intruded only to some extent in the process of samadhi, then we would have accepted the eternal differentiation between the soul and the supersoul and nothing more. But since we have totally submerged this wicked propensity of doubting, we have attained complete realization of the beautiful form of the Supreme Shelter. Now, we are going to explain the form and beauty of the Lord, which are realized through samadhi. The beautiful form of the Lord, which nourishes all spiritual subjects, is like a human form. There is no difference between the energy and its effect in the absolute realm. Nevertheless, the Sandhini aspect of the spiritual potency, with the help of variegatedness, arranges the effect so perfectly that it has created a wonderfully unprecedented scene. There is no comparison to that beauty, either in this world or in the spiritual world, since there is no predominance of time and space in the absolute truth. The significance or greatness of the Lord's form does not increase his glories, rather, because his form is beyond the material realm, it is always wonderful and complete. Therefore, we are seeing the body of the Lord, which is the source of all beauty, through samadhi. The Lord's form is even more sweet. The more deeply one sees the form of the Lord through the eyes of samadhi, the more one sees an indescribable, pleasing blackish form. Perhaps that spiritual form is pervertedly reflected as mundane blue sapphires, which give relief to the mundane eyes, or mundane new clouds, which increase the happiness of the burning mundane eyes. The Sandini, Samvit, and Ladini potencies wonderfully merge in the beautiful threefold bending form of the Lord. The Lord's ever-pleasing eyes increase the beauty of his form. Perhaps the lotus flowers of this world are modeled after his eyes. The crown of the Lord's head is wonderfully decorated. Perhaps the peacock feathers of this world are modeled after those decorations. A garland of spiritual flowers increases the beauty of the Lord's neck. Perhaps a forest flower garland of this world is modeled after that transcendental garland. Spiritual knowledge, which is manifested from the Samvit aspect of the spiritual potency, covers the waist of the Lord's form. Perhaps the lightning bolt of a new cloud of this world is modeled after that covering. Spiritual jewels like kastuba and other ornaments beautifully decorate his form. The instrument by which the Lord sweetly invites or spiritually attracts all is known as the flute. The flute of this world, which creates various ragas or musical modes, might be modeled after that flute. This inconceivable form of the Lord is seen under the Kadamba tree, which is the form of hares standing on end in ecstasy on the banks of the Yamuna, which is the form of spiritual liquid. So we'll end here and begin with text 10 next time.